All right, today we're diving into something pretty special. It's a powerful ancient herb that some people call a stress silencer. I'm talking about ashwagandha. We're going to unpack exactly how this ancient root could be a total game changer for dealing with, our crazy modern high-stress lives.
So just think about this for a second. What if you could literally turn down the volume on your body's internal alarm system? You know that feeling. A lot of us are walking around in the state of, perpetual emergency, where our stress response is just stuck in the on position. And that's really where this whole story kicks off.
And here's the number that really gets your attention. 30%. So what's that? Well, that is the potential reduction in cortisol, your body's #1 stress hormone, that some clinical studies have seen with high-quality ashwagandha. I mean, a 30% drop is huge, and that's really the key to unlocking what makes this herb so powerful. So, here's what we're going to cover. We're breaking it down into 3 key areas. By the end of this, you're going to understand exactly how ashwagandha helps squash that cortisol, how it works to optimize other key hormones for your overall vitality, and, believe it or not, how it can even give your physical performance and recovery a serious boost. Okay, first, let's get some context, because this is not some newfangled wellness trend that popped up on social media last week. No way. Ashwagandha has been a cornerstone of Ayurveda, that's India's traditional medicine system, for more than 3,000 years. And get this, its name in Sanskrit literally translates to the strength of a horse, which kind of hints at its power to boost vitality.
Right, so in Ayurveda, it's in a special class of herbs called a rasayana, which is basically a top-tier rejuvenating tonic. And what's so fascinating to me is how we're seeing this ancient wisdom and modern science finally meeting in the middle. I mean, ancient healers would call it a balancer of the soul, and now, thousands of years later, modern science is confirming that, this is one of the most effective biological buffers against stress we know of.
Okay, so that brings us to the million-dollar question. How does it actually work? Well, the secret is in the name, not ashwagandha, but its classification. It's what's known as an adaptogen, and that's a really cool class of herbs that, just like the name says, helps your body adapt to stress and find its natural balance again, a state scientists call homeostasis.
All right, let's get into the science, but I'll break it down into 3 simple steps for you. First, it helps regulate something called your HPA axis. Just think of that as the control center for your whole stress response. It's the thing that tells your adrenal glands when to pump the brakes. Second, it actually mimics the activity of GABA in your brain. GABA is like the primary brake pedal for your mind. It helps quiet down all that mental chatter. And third, it supports important anabolic hormones, like luteinizing hormone, which is just crucial for overall vitality for both men and women.
Okay, now, before you just go out and buy the first bottle you see, listen up, because this is so important. The market is just flooded with low-quality junk that, frankly, doesn't work. So the #1 takeaway here has to be this. Quality is everything. So let's break down what to look for. For this stuff to actually work, you want a supplement made from the roots, and only the roots, not watered down with leaves. Next, look for a standardized extract. A really common one you'll see is KSM 66, which is what they use in a lot of the clinical studies. That's way better than just plain old root powder. Why? Because that extract guarantees you're getting a potent dose of the active stuff, these things called withanolides, somewhere between 2.5 and 5%. And last but not least, since it's a root that's pulling things from the soil, make sure it's organic and third-party tested. Okay, so let's say you've done your homework. You've found a high-quality source. What can you actually expect to feel? Let's dive into the real-world benefits, from stress management all the way to physical performance.
And the list of benefits is pretty impressive. It's really well known for helping with that kind of generalized low-level anxiety that so many of us feel. And it's especially good for that tired but wired feeling at night. You know what I'm talking about? Your body's exhausted, but your brain won't shut up. In fact, its botanical name, somnifera, literally means sleep-inducing because it helps bring down that evening cortisol. But it's not just for stress. Studies also show it can really increase muscle strength for people who lift weights, and it might even help improve insulin sensitivity.
So how do you actually take it? Well, you've basically got 2 main options. There's the traditional way, which is honestly a really nice, relaxing ritual. You mix about a half teaspoon of the powder into warm milk, making what a lot of people call moon milk before bed. Then there's the modern way, which is just super convenient. A single capsule of a concentrated extract, like that KSM 66 we talked about, usually somewhere between 300 and 600 milligrams. And hey, here's a little pro tip, and this one comes straight from ancient tradition. To really boost how well your body absorbs it, take it with a healthy fat. Think ghee or even just full-fat milk.
That's because the active compounds are fat-soluble. And here's another little trick. Add a tiny pinch of black pepper. The stuff in pepper, piperine, is famous for helping your body absorb all sorts of herbal compounds.
All right, let's switch gears a little bit and talk about safety, dosing, and some common mistakes. This part is absolutely critical if you want to get the best results and, more importantly, do it right.
So let's talk about 2 really common mistakes people make. First off, expecting instant magic. This isn't a drug. It's an adaptogen that works with your body over time. Most of the studies show that the real benefits start to kick in after about 8 to 12 weeks of using it consistently. The second mistake is taking way too much. Some people find that on really high doses, they start to feel kind of emotionally flat or numb. There's a clinical term for it, anhedonia. If you ever feel that, you might want to think about cycling it. Maybe take it 5 days a week and take the weekend off.
And dosing. This is where a lot of people get tripped up, so pay attention to this. There's a massive difference. If you're using a standard plain root powder, a typical dose is going to be in the thousands of milligrams, like 3,000 to 6,000. But if you're using one of those concentrated extracts we talked about, the effective dose is only 300 to 600 milligrams. That's a huge difference, and knowing which one you have is absolutely key for using it safely and effectively.
And finally, let's be really clear. This stuff isn't for everyone. Since it can stimulate the immune system, people with autoimmune conditions like lupus or RA should be really cautious. It can also give your thyroid a little boost, so if you already have an overactive thyroid, you should probably avoid it. It's also a no-go during pregnancy. And one last thing, it's actually in the nightshade family, just like tomatoes and peppers, so if you have a severe sensitivity to nightshades, you want to steer clear.
So to wrap all this up, I want to leave you with a question to think about. Have you ever had that tired but wired feeling at night? Where your body is just completely exhausted, but your mind refuses to shut off and just keeps racing? Well, that's a classic sign of a stress imbalance. And it's exactly the kind of problem that this incredible ancient herb is famous for helping to solve.